Yeah, that's it. So, hello humans, this is my talk about how I got a job in code. It's written in Comic Sans, it's a dyslexic-friendly font, get over it. So, about me, I am 27 years old, I have a degree in psychology, I have blue hair, and I write code for a living. Now, this kind of 5 years ago, it was completely different. So how did I get here? Well, I really enjoyed learning, and I wanted to do a job in research. So when I was at university doing psychology, I did a temporary research assistant job between my second and third year. However, it was full of reading, and I'm dyslexic, so I kind of realized it wasn't really for me, and so I didn't really know what to do, so I kind of ended up becoming a carer. By doing this, I worked lots of hours and I had a lot of disposable income. So I built a computer. Something I always wanted to do. A friend helped me, and go on YouTube. It's actually not too difficult. If you look, it's got little Lego inside of it to sort of keep it all working. It's brilliant. So, after that, I moved to Brighton, and I did nothing really for 2 years other than sort of watch Netflix. It was pretty good. I guess I was in a bit of a rut. How did I get into code? So after doing nothing for 2 years, I was always interested in code basically. And after doing nothing for 2 years, my friend one day said, "Hey, do you want to come along to Code Bar? That's where I've learned how to code. You said you always kind of wanted to do this. Do you want to come along?" So they sort of dragged me along, and yeah, it was good. Code Bar, if you don't know what Code Bar is, you get free pizza, you get free beer, and they teach you how to code. It's for underrepresented groups in technology. So if you're not an able, straight, white man, then you can go to Code Bar. It's completely free. So every Tuesday, it's brilliant. So first time I went, I was doing HTML and CSS. And to be honest, I found that it wasn't really for me. So HTML is kind of like the content of like a web page, whereas CSS is kind of like the layout of the web page. That's like two sort of programming kind of languages. It did just feel like I was building like a Word document out of code. But I went again, and the second time I went, I learned JavaScript, which is more about the functionality, about the cool things you can do with websites, and that's kind of really where I started to become hooked. After doing nothing for 2 years, I had a lot of spare time, and this was like the first interesting thing I'd done for a long time. And so I really sort of got into code, and I really wanted to learn how to code as quickly as possible. Fortunately, doing a degree in psychology, I was quite familiar with how I learned. This is kind of like one of the take-homes from this that I like to take, is figuring out how you learn, because I feel like for me, this helped me learn really, really quickly. So what I would do is I would learn a new bit of syntax. So an easy example in JavaScript is a for loop. And then I would build a project around this little bit of syntax. I'd save all my work on my desktop to Google Drives, which meant that it synced to my phone. This was really useful because having all of my code on my phone meant that if I was on a bus or something like that, I could just look at my code wherever I was, and being able to read my code anywhere was really, really useful, because then it just kind of got me more thinking about my code and sort of thinking about how I can improve it and stuff like that. And just basically every second of my day, I was just thinking about code. It helped me learn really quickly. Not for long, I had all of this sort of JavaScript knowledge, and I was doing all these cool things with JavaScript, but I didn't really know much HTML and CSS, and I kind of wanted to build my own website. So this meant I had to very quickly learn some HTML and CSS to do something cool with JavaScript with. And this time around, I actually really, really enjoyed learning HTML and CSS, because suddenly, I could do so much cool stuff with it that I couldn't do before. This led to me coming up with even more projects, and just the ball really got rolling. Meanwhile, the company that I worked for was going a bit downhill. It was a care company. They got purchased by another big company. Anyway, so I needed a new job, and I wanted to change sectors as well. And so, yeah, I went on the Wired Sussex website. It's really good for finding new jobs, and yeah, just started looking for jobs there. So this is my tips on how I applied for jobs. The first thing I would do is I would download the job page, so the HTML document of the job post itself. The reason why I do this is because come the interview, they might have taken the job post down, so you will end up going to a job interview, having no idea what the job was you applied for. So it's really useful to do that. I saved it to my Google Drives as well, so I could read it wherever I was. I love Google Drives. So yeah, one of the things I did is I really studied the companies. I studied the products that they sold, sort of their work ethic and stuff like that. And this allowed me to really tailor my CV and covering letter for each company. I mean, the way I did this as well is for each company I applied for, I had a folder on my desktop. It had the job post and then my CV and then my covering letter, and I would rewrite my CV in part every time for each job post. And that way I can also see what my CV said that I knew when I go to the job interview. Yeah, so my other tip is to figure out what the job market is looking for. And so what do I mean by this? So as somebody who loves JavaScript, I really wanted a job doing something related to JavaScript. Now, if you don't know what a framework is, don't worry, you'll learn that later on. But I looked to see which frameworks a lot of companies were hiring for. So, the kind of popular ones are Angular, React, Backbone. So I chose one. I chose React. I started to learn it, and it was incredibly hard. I learned so much more about JavaScript I had no idea it even existed through learning React. It broke me a little bit at times, but CodeBar was there to help me put me back together. Got a lot of help from people at CodeBar, really helped me figure out the gaps in my knowledge, and it was great. So yeah, then eventually I applied for a job at a company called Ocasta. I had read all about the company and done all the research, and when it came to applying to the job, I realized it wasn't a junior web developer job. It was, they were looking for like a regular developer or senior. They weren't looking for someone junior, and I had already done all this research and I was kind of kicking myself. So I decided I was just going to apply anyway. By knowing that I was underqualified, I kind of had some strange extra confidence, because I had to really had to sell myself hard, and that kind of, I guess, prevented me from underselling myself. So I really put my all into that application. I didn't get the job because I didn't have enough experience, something I mentioned in my covering letter, but they really liked that I mentioned that I had a lack of experience, and they really liked my application. So they gave me a week's work experience, and it was great. I had a great week. But after that week, I felt a little bit down because I had just done this awesome week and this job that I really, really wanted. Yeah. A few weeks later, though, they sent me an email offering me a job. I guess I impressed them. I started a month later, and yeah, this is how I make my money now. It's a career with a future. I'm always learning new things. So I mentioned how I learned React before I started applying for jobs. I now know Backbone. I know bits of PHP. I know various PHP frameworks, and yeah, it's great. I'm absolutely loving it. And yeah, that's it. These are my top tips for my talk. Yeah, that's it. Cool.